Another new retro video game console is coming to us from Evercade, but honestly, this console has a lot of potential. Xbox updates a whole slew of games with a free performance patch for them. Sony's promising some very lofty things for the PlayStation 5. And finally, some new Nintendo Switch accessories and games have been announced that I find to be, well, very interesting. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like and share the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So you might remember last year on the channel, we of course covered a new handheld product called the Evercade, which I thought was pretty cool, honestly. It was basically a bunch of retro game compilations on actual cartridges that you would play on this handheld system. I did a full review of the system, and really I liked most of what it brought to the table. The one thing I didn't like was the ability to play on your television, because you had this long cord sticking out. It wasn't very intuitive. It was kind of cumbersome, but I always wondered if they would do anything else with the Evercade brand. Well, it looks like the Evercade brand has actually been pretty successful, because they just announced a brand new consoleized version of the Evercade handheld version called the Evercade Versus. And honestly, I think this thing is really cool. So the basic gist of it is, of course, it will play all of your Evercade cartridges that are already available. So these cartridges are like $20, and they include a bunch of different games from companies like Interplay, Data East, even newer inspired retro games from companies like Mega Cat Studios. And it seems like they're releasing more and more cartridges for this system, and these cartridges will be the same thing that you play on the Evercade Versus. But what's nice about it is, of course, since the cartridges have save states built into them, your saves will transfer onto the actual cartridge. Now, this system will have up to 4 players on local multiplayer with USB controllers, built-in Wi-Fi support for updates, a new user interface, a 1.5 gigahertz CPU allowing for 1080p output, and of course, we already have all of these games readily available that are on the system, with more coming. What I really like about this, though, is it has a slot for 2 cartridges when you open up the flap of the system. So I think that's really cool. You can sort of store your cartridges in there, and you can switch on the fly what games you want to play. I think the new user interface looks very nice. It's definitely more detailed than what was originally available on the Evercade system. And the most important thing about this thing is the price. And Evercade is absolutely nailing the price of this at just $99.99 for the base introductory system. Now, I'm sure there will be more systems that come with like additional controllers and probably some pack-in games if you don't have any Evercade stuff. But if you already have the Evercade handheld and some games for it, you can get the system with 2 controllers for $99.99. And that's honestly a perfect price point for this, because it allows for impulse buys. When you start talking about like $200, $250 for retro inspired systems, it honestly becomes a much harder sale, especially considering there is that unknown factor that really goes into this. But the Evercade system already has an established library of games, and coming out at $100 for the base introductory system with 2 controllers, I think that's a big win in my opinion. I definitely plan on checking this out. Pre-orders start to go up in May for this system. They are planning a November release for it as well, and I just think it's really cool. I like to see stuff like this. Obviously, we just talked about the Pie Packer a couple days ago on the channel. I still love retro stuff. Like I said, I just kind of got bored talking about the old retro stuff, but new retro stuff is always going to catch my eye. So this system, the Evercade Versus, I think looks really cool, has a lot of potential, and I'm very interested to see what other licenses Evercade is able to pick up, because they've been doing a lot of interesting things when it comes to that, and I think they're going to start expanding it more so now that they actually have this dedicated home console as well. So if you want to check out more information on it, they have a website. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. But very cool stuff, and definitely something I'm keeping my eye on, and yes, I plan on reviewing it for you guys. Next up, let's talk about Xbox. While their weakest thing right now is, of course, the lack of exclusives for the Xbox brand, obviously that is something that they are changing with the acquisition of all of these studios that they're getting. One of the strong points of it has to be Game Pass, and how there's 23 million, yes, 23 million active Game Pass subscribers right now. So this is something that is obviously working for Xbox. And one thing I think the Xbox brand does a lot better than the Sony brand right now is, of course, free upgrades for older games. I'm actually playing Horizon Zero Dawn on my PlayStation 5 right now for the first time since it was free during the Play at Home initiative, and I keep thinking to myself, man, I wish this was kind of on Xbox, because it would have gotten a free performance boost like we've seen with a lot of games. Well, Microsoft just announced a whole slew of new games that are getting a performance boost on the Xbox Series X. These are actually available right now, and all of them are actually in Game Pass, whether it's Game Pass Ultimate via EA Play or whatnot. But I think this is very cool. Some of the highlights include Battlefield 4, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, all up to 120 frames frames per second, Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefront 2 up to 120 frames per second, Titanfall 2 up to 120 frames per second, and this is very interesting stuff to me. Now I actually want to check out Titanfall 2. I never played Titanfall 2, and this kind of gives me an incentive to check it out because now it's more optimized for the Xbox Series X. So I like what Xbox is doing with their back catalog of games. When you have companies that sort of just, completely ignore their back catalog of stuff, they act like it doesn't exist, or they just want to recharge you for everything. Xbox is actually doing something different by adding in extra incentive to maybe check out these games if you haven't checked them out before. Like I said, Titanfall 2, I'm probably going to download it after I'm done with this episode and check it out because it's a game I've always wanted to check out but never got around to doing. But now that it's more optimized for the Xbox Series X, I definitely have more of an incentive to check it out. So this is something that Xbox is obviously very focused on. They're constantly adding in free performance patches for these games, and I think it's a very smart decision. Once these companies start making these Xbox Series X exclusive games, it could be a very interesting landscape when you're comparing the PlayStation 5 to the Xbox Series X. Next up, let's talk about some PlayStation 5 stuff, and I might kind of have a negative tone with these two stories. It's just because these are the two stories that are prominent right now with the PlayStation 5. I love my PlayStation 5. I love all video games. Just, it's just, if it's negative, it's negative. We got to talk about it, and we got to be real about it. The first thing we're going to talk about is Jim Ryan basically coming out and saying that the PlayStation 5 will have the most exclusives of any PlayStation before. Okay, shut up. Shut up, Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan, you are a person that I need you to show me things. I don't need you to tell me things because I don't really believe you. Remember, these are only possible through the power of the PlayStation 5. Like, no, you did Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PlayStation 4. You're doing Horizon Forbidden West on the PlayStation 4 as well as the PlayStation 5. And the reason you probably didn't do a performance patch for Horizon on the PlayStation 5 is because you're going to re-release like a definitive edition right alongside of Horizon Forbidden West as well. So yes, you could sit there and say you have a lot of exclusives coming, and obviously we are starting to see some of these exclusives. Returnal comes out at the end of April. We have Ratchet and Clank coming out as well. God of War supposedly is a 2021 game. I would not hold your breath on that, but show me things, Jim. Show me things that I want to see. Don't tell me things because you flip-flop a lot, and that's the video game industry. That's how it is, and I can respect that they went back on the PlayStation 3 and of course the Vita store closures, and I think that was a good move, but you got to show me things, Jim. And then another sort of show me thing with this whole situation is that Sony actually announced a new AAA multiplayer game that's coming out, and that was it. That was like the whole press release was just people talking about what this game was sort of going to be, a AAA multiplayer online experience. And yeah, they didn't really talk about what this game actually was. Now, they did say it was going to be a new game, and there's lots of people involved in this game that are industry veterans, which I think is cool, but you have a lot of franchises under the Sony brand that don't need to be a new game, that are multiplayer based, that I think would be really good, like SOCOM. You remember SOCOM? Why can't I have a new SOCOM game? I loved SOCOM back in the day. What about Killzone, Resistance? Like, you don't have to just make a AAA multiplayer game. You can have a single player aspect to it alongside of the multiplayer game, and the multiplayer, like, that's how video games used to be made. It wasn't just, oh, this is a single player game, oh, this is a multiplayer game. No, they used to have both in them. Why can't we sort of get back to that with Sony? Because I think that was some of the best stuff that they had to offer. So I don't know, to me it's more so like, shouldn't you like show the game, or at least give the name of the game, or sort of, what this game is intended to be, more so than just say a AAA multiplayer game, especially considering when you say it's new, and then that sort of, eliminates previous games like SOCOM and stuff like that people actually are looking forward to and hoping that end up coming out. So I don't know, decent stuff from Sony, but I'm more of a show me sort of person than a tell me sort of person. And finally, we have a couple Nintendo things to wrap up this video, all related to the Nintendo Switch. Why is it at the end of the video? Because Daddy wants his ad revenue, and he wants you to watch the whole video. So hopefully you watch the whole video up until this point, because that would make me very happy. But kicking things off, new Pokemon Snap is of course coming out at the end of April. And you might remember with the original Pokemon Snap, you could actually print out pictures via a kiosk at Blockbuster, and it was a very popular thing. People actually collect these kiosks now. I'm pretty sure that Jordan from the Spawn Cast podcast actually has one of these in his home because I don't know, he's just a weird Pokemon dude at the end of the day. But the one of the thing that was really cool about it was that, yes, you could print out your actual pictures and have some sort of physical media to go alongside of it. Now, obviously, Blockbuster is long dead and gone, but Nintendo is actually teaming up with Fujifilm and doing something like this in Japan. Basically, there's going to be a new app that is available on April 30th that you will be able to download on your phone and then customize pictures from your Nintendo Switch on this app. So it basically uses the QR code for a picture, and then you can customize this picture. But Fujifilm is also doing is they're releasing something called the Instax Mini Link, which is basically a little portable printer so that not only you can edit these pictures on your phone, but then you could print them out and have sort of like almost like a little Polaroid picture of what you just printed out. Now, obviously, technology has long advanced since things like the Game Boy printer, which, you know, it didn't really work. It kind of worked, but this is something I think is really cool. You know, obviously, it's sort of a novelty sort of thing with this, but people do like to have physical media when it comes to pictures and things like that, because, you know, what if you break your phone and you don't back up your clouds or whatever, and then you lose all these pictures? So I like this. I think it's pretty cool. Now, right now, this is just a Japanese only thing. I could definitely see it coming stateside though, because I think people would like something like this. You can, of course, always just import it, as none of this stuff is region locked or anything, but a really cool, interesting accessory that I think Nintendo might end up seeing some good residuals from as well. And then we also have two Nintendo Switch games that have been announced over the past few days that, like I said, I find very interesting. The first one is, of course, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is now confirmed for the Nintendo Switch, and of course is coming out in the United States. Now, the Capcom leak that we talked about a couple months ago on the channel did say this was coming, so now we have a confirmation of it. I think that's interesting because the Capcom leak also talked about a Resident Evil Revelations 3 with the Nintendo Switch designed in mind. Please give me that with the RE engine. I am begging you, Capcom. The RE engine is amazing. But yes, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, of course, includes the two Nintendo 3DS games, plus a bunch of bonus content that was released during either special events or DLC, and it's also getting a physical release at just $39.99. You know, people like Phoenix Wright. I think this game will do very well on the Nintendo Switch, so it's great to see this game coming over to the platform. And the second interesting game is Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Now, Test Drive Unlimited 2 was a game I played the hell out of on the Xbox 360. I absolutely love this game, and it's a style of racing game that isn't prevalent on the Nintendo Switch. If you've ever played Forza Horizon, which, I mean, I'm sure you have, you know, that sort of open world, go anywhere, do anything, you race various people that you find in this open world, a lot of online aspects to it, various cars that you can unlock and purchase, various bikes that you can unlock and purchase, of course, secret things within the world themselves. This is a style of racing game that does not exist on the Nintendo Switch, and this game is now confirmed to be coming out on the Nintendo Switch. Now, we don't have any sort of additional information. They did like a little teaser trailer that, I don't know, I didn't really care about, so I'm probably going to use like a Test Drive Unlimited 2 trailer over this, just so you can sort of get a feel for what this game is about. It's not super simmy or anything like that. It's definitely a little bit more towards the arcade, but it's simply fun. And I love open world racing games. You know, really, we only have Burnout Paradise remastered on the Nintendo Switch that sort of encapsulates this, but I think this takes it to a different sort of level as far as how the game itself actually plays out. It's obviously more based on racing than crashes and things like that, but this is something I'm definitely keeping my eye on. Test Drive Unlimited 2, like I said, I love the Test Drive Unlimited series. I thought it was super fun. It's been gone for a very long time. We're going to get more information on this game in the month of July, according to the developer, so definitely something to keep your eye on. Ugh. All right, so we covered retro, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo in this video. This encapsulates what RGT85 is about. We have all of the world of video games here. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends, because I mean, there's something for everyone in this video. Let me know what you think of all the topics in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.